going to do is first, we're going to do just simple box modeling. It's really, really easy. If you're new to modeling, this is pretty much where you start anytime you do modeling. You'll see I have Maya open right here. And initially in the scene, we just have our scene view right in the middle right here. The controls are very similar to Unity. You hold the Alt key, you can kind of tumble or orbit your view around. Right Alt key and the right mouse button will let you zoom in and out, and the middle mouse button will let you drag, right? So you've got orbit, drag, and zoom in and out just from your 3 mouse buttons. On the side here, this window, and you'll see it's either open or closed by this little tab right here. This is called your outliner. So inside your project, everything that we create will go in here. This is super similar to the hierarchy in Unity. For your scenes that you create, it'll just show everything in here. We've got some preset cameras, as well as some lighting and objects. None of these you really have to worry about too much right now. And there's a lot of stuff in here that you'll see that you won't even have to worry about. Now I'm using LT. You might be using Maya. They're pretty much identical with regards to everything besides rendering. But there is a lot of options in Maya, and you might get overwhelmed right off the bat, but it's honestly really, really easy. There's not that much there that we'll be using from all the stuff you see. Mostly in Maya, we have this little tab right here that says modeling. If you go up to the top left corner right here, this is kind of your shelf, so the different areas or workspaces you can use while you're in Maya. For the most part, we're just going to be in modeling the entire time. If you're doing animation, we do rigging, animation, other things like that, but we're just doing modeling, so we'll stay in the modeling tab. And right here, this little tabs right here for these shelves, this is kind of your different options you have for different types of modeling, whether we're doing sculpting, rigging, animation, etc. Just kind of like this, but set into tabs. We'll mostly just be on the poly modeling window. Sometimes you can go to sculpting if you feel like it, but we don't really need to do that right now. Just poly modeling is just fine. Okay. Now at the top, when we're in modeling, you'll notice if I change to different sections in Maya, it'll change that top window. So all these options at the top, they change as I change to the different tabs, right? But for what we're doing, again, we're just going to stay in modeling, and we're really only focused on a couple of different drop downs up here. Mesh, it's going to have a lot of our mesh tools for the models that we make. Edit mesh, which will help us edit the mesh that we're making. So a lot of different actions and components and things in here that we can use to edit the mesh that we're making. And mesh tools, which also help us edit the mesh we're making. Mesh display is kind of how we display our mesh in our scene, so the way it previews for us. So these are pretty much the only 4 options we're going to be using. We don't have to worry too much about curves, surfaces, any of this other stuff that's in here, at least not right now. Just for right now, for this modeling exercise, we're just going to do mesh, edit mesh, mesh tools, mesh display, and then we might go into modify to freeze transforms, but we don't need to worry about that just yet. We'll get into that later. Okay, so to get started, again, Alt key moves your view around, middle mouse button drags, zooms in and out with the right mouse button. Now on the side here, we have our channel box. So this will tell us when we have an object in our scene. So I'm going to go ahead and make a cube, and I can do that by going to the Create menu right here, going down to Polygon Primitives. Don't go to NURBS, go to Polygon, and in here, click Cube. All right. So I have an object in my scene. We can see that object right here. If I click on it, it's selected, just like it was like an object in Unity. With the tabs on the side, we've got our channel box. This just shows us where this object is in space. And you'll see this little toolbar here on the side. This is your move toolbar, so we can move the object around just like Unity, where we have those handles. We have rotate, which will help us rotate the object if we need to. We also have scale, which will help us scale the object if we need to. Now you'll notice as I move those options around, the channels box, the layer editor, those values change, right? Kind of like our game objects in Unity, how we've got translations on them. The same thing applies in Maya, right? So as I scale it, the scale adjusts. If I move it around in 3D space, the translations adjust, and the rotations adjust as well if I rotate the object too. So you can see those values change, right? I'm going to go ahead and undo all that. Let's Control Z. bring this guy back to the center here, bring it back to 0. We'll start with something like that. Okay, now whenever we're modeling, I always like to use this other tab in here called the modeling toolkit. Now in this tab, we've got another kind of like quick access modeling functions. And a lot of these, all of these you can actually find up in these windows here as well, or these drop-down windows, these drop-downs that are right here. You can find the exact same tools up there, but this is just like the most commonly used tools right away that you can just get quick access to. Whenever I'm modeling, I like to keep this modeling toolkit tab open. It's really good to use. One of the nice features in here too is this symmetry tab, which we'll turn on once we start modeling, so we can model in symmetry for the ship that we're building. Beyond that, we have our attribute editor. So this is kind of like the history of your object as you start editing your object and applying materials and different things to the object. It'll start adding different attributes to the object that you can get in and edit. We don't need to worry too much about this. I would say this is more for a little bit of more advanced users, so we're just going to keep it really simple for now. So don't even worry about the attribute editor. This will only be good for like our materials, I would say, when we get into that. But even that we don't even need to worry about. Then we have our UV toolkit, which I think I added in here. I'm not sure if you have that, but that is what's up here, UV, and there should be the UV editor right here. And then I believe there is, I'm not sure where the UV toolkit, oh no, UV toolkit I think is just there, docked to your window. So a lot of these you don't need to worry about right now, especially the UV toolkit. We're going to do automatic UVs for our model, so we're not even going to need to worry about this either. Really just the modeling toolkit. Okay, so just to start over real quickly, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cube. So I'm going to go create polygon primitives, cube, put that in my scene. Now it's important to note which way the cube is facing. So when I look at this cube, you see we have this, just like in Unity, we have our blue arrow, which represents our z-axis. Whichever way that's pointing, whichever way that arrow is pointing, that's our forward axis. So if we were developing a spaceship, right, we want to make sure that the front of our spaceship is right here, back of it's over here, and the sides of it on this side, etc. Right? We have our up axes and everything. Now, it's almost like the people who built Unity used Maya, because there's a lot of similarities between the two and how their axes work. They're true axes. You know, Z is forward, X is side to side, and Y is up. Okay. So again, like I said, this is going to be a really, really simple tutorial on how to make a spaceship. Just follow along the best you can and just give it a shot. I'm not expecting to be an expert. Just want to be able to have fun with it and kind of pick up some tips about modeling as you go. Okay, so I've got my cube in here, and what we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to be doing box modeling, so we're going to turn this cube into a spaceship. Now, the way I normally do that is by extrusions. Okay, so a cube by itself really can't do us much, but if we extrude it and start building shapes from it, we can do a lot. Now, to do that, first thing I need to do is, on my model with this cube selected, you'll see over here in my modeling toolkit with this tab open, I have all these different options, and then I have this symmetry tab. Okay, we're going to turn the object X axis on, meaning anything on the X, which is this side to side, is always going to repeat. So now to select different components of your object in Maya, we need to use the right click function. Okay, so anytime we need to like select faces or verts or anything like that, we hold down our right mouse key, and you'll see we got to hold it down. We have this little flyout menu. Okay, this flyout menu lets us select our edges. Right, whoops. Let's select our vertexes. So I have symmetry on, so you'll see as I select this one, it's also selecting the other one, right? The one that's perpendicular to it, right? Or parallel to it, sorry. And then we have our face selection as well, right? Okay. We also have what's called vertex face, and that's kind of like a combination of the two that lets you see or get access to other parts of your model. We're not going to really use that. We're just going to use edge, vertex, and face for what we're doing. Anytime we need to get out of this mode, we hold the right click down and go to object mode. Okay. All right. And again, I just want to make this easy for you guys. This isn't meant to be a super hard assignment. I just want you guys to just kind of take a crack at 3D and try to make some stuff within Maya and use the 3D engine outside of Unity to build an asset for an AR program. I'll actually be providing you guys with a completed spaceship that you guys can if you feel more comfortable just using something that works and you want to texture that, that's fine too. But I do want to see a screenshot of some kind of effort that you put forth inside of Maya to build something, even if it's not what you're going to end up using. Okay, so in here, with my cube selected and my symmetry mode on, I'm going to right click and go to face mode. Okay. Now, with face mode selected, we can create extrusions. Now, there's a couple ways to do extrusions. In this top bar that we have right here, we can use the extrude tool right here. And if I click that and then pull out my extrusion, you'll see I can create an extrusion, right? The other way to do that is if I undo that, I can highlight a box, and just like Pro Builder in Unity, I can hold the Shift key. And you'll see as I hover over that arrow, see how it turns to extrude when I hit the shift key? With that selected, I can then pull out that particular part of the object, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around my object and start pulling out some pieces to make this something that I can kind of move and contort into a really basic spaceship. So I've got a box with an extrusion out the front of it. Now I'm just going to kind of edit it just a little bit to add a couple more extrusions in here. So I'm going to hold the shift key and I'm going to pull this out and pull it out again. So I have about 4 different sections right now. Now in this middle section, I'm going to hold the shift key, extrude that outwards like that. And I'm just holding the shift and dragging to do that. Okay, I can also use the scale if I need to. Scale that. Now you can also scale an extrusion too. So for example, let's come in here really quickly. Let's move this edge, and I just selected the edge and moving that just to kind of give myself some kind of shape to work with here. And I'll bring this one out and back a little bit too. And I'll go to my vertex right here. I just kind of bounce back and forth between those options. I got my vertex, edge, and face, just like I'm in Pro Builder, same kind of thing. Come in here, grab that. Okay, so it's starting to look like some kind of spaceship, right? And come into the top right here, and maybe I'm going to pull this up a little bit. Maybe I'll come in with my edges right here and pull these up a bit as well. All right, pull that down. This part will pull down a little bit. All right. Starting to take shape. Now what I'll do is, bring this back part up a lot more right there. Great. I'm going to highlight these 2 top areas right here, these top 3, those 3. And with my shift key, I'm going to pull these out and pull it up a little bit. I'll use my scale tool to just kind of pull those in. That'll kind of give us some type of little cockpit structure. And you can kind of tweak that a little bit so it looks a little bit better. Maybe come in with the edge tool and move some of these edges around a little bit. Scale them if needed. Okay. Come into the back here, select these parts right here. And I'll just bring them up a little bit. We'll shift and just extrude this piece out and pull it up. Maybe just shrink it in with my scale tool a little bit. See, I'm starting to just kind of develop a form, right? And I'm just kind of tweaking the shape a little bit so it feels more like some kind of spaceship that we're going to build. Alright, that's looking good. say that this will probably be its little booster in the back. Maybe I'll just extrude that out. Scale it down a little bit. Right. This top part, maybe we'll build a tail. So I'll use this extrude up here. Now if you use this tool extrude, it's nice because it'll pull from the surface of whichever the way the face is pulling. So if you use the extrude and shift, it'll just use the world axis to extrude from. But if you use the toolbar, you notice my handle's right here. If I click the extrude, it changes the extrude to actually extrude from the way the face is painting or pointing. All right, so I come in here, I'll shrink that down a little bit. Oops. Maybe we'll do one more too. One more extrusion. Let's pull that in. Let's build some kind of tail to this thing. Let's see. Add a little bit more in here. Maybe I'll just come into the top right here. My face. And I'll extrude that. And we're just kind of editing the form. Let's come in here. Now you can do extrusions that come into something. So if I wanted to scale, I could just hold the shift key down, have my scale tool activated with the face selected, and just scale in an extrusion. All right. Move tool, extrude, pull down a little bit. All right. There's so much you can get away with just doing little simple extrusions. I can come in here. Again, maybe I'll just scale that. Maybe I'll pull that in right there. All right. It's kind of nice too if you want to add details really quickly. I could grab these forms and then do an extrusion. And one of the interesting things with the extrude tool, if you use this one up here, is instead of extruding a face out, if I just click this little cube handle in the middle, it'll give me my face extrusion, so I could just pull in an average extrusion from that face all the way around like that. And then if I extrude it out again, it gives me a little extra little piece I can take out of my model, right? So that'd probably be good for some type of, I don't know, side boosters or whatever we're gonna make on this. And then on the side right here, let's build our wings. So I'll just go ahead and extrude these guys out. And we'll tilt them a little bit. Extrude again. Something like that. All right. There we go. And then maybe here, I'll add an extra little air intake. So I'll come in here, I'll do an extrusion, and we'll just scale that in a little bit. Pull that in. And just scale it down. There we go. Right. Okay, so nothing too crazy going on this thing. Now, I know it might seem like a lot, but you can tell that, look, I just did some really basic extrusions from a cube, and I was able to get away with kind of a lot to start building a model from, right? It's not the best model in the world, but there's probably some room for improvement on this, but it's something that we can, probably texture and come up with something cool, right? So let's just go ahead and do some tweaking here. Now, one of the things I really like to do to help tweak the form is use what's called the soft select tool. And so when you have a face selected on your model inside of Maya, if if you press the B key, you're going to enter into what's called soft select mode. So you see this little fade where it's yellow to red to orange, right? You see that? It's the area of influence. If I hold the B key, so if you tap the B key, you'll go into that mode. B, I'm in the mode, right? Soft select mode is on. If I hold B down, I can change that influence to whatever I want, right? So if I wanted to get some more natural shapes, even though this is a low poly model, I can increase that influence and now start moving those sections around. You can see it can kind of move a lot of stuff at once, right? And that really helps if you're trying to kind of get a more organic shape out of something without having to go in and change every single vert, right? And come in here to the back maybe and maybe make this booster a little bit bigger or even pull it out a little bit, right? Maybe these wings on the side, we want to pull these down a little bit, maybe even turn them a little bit more. Right, it really helps to use that soft select just to kind of get some more quick, natural curves. You can change that influence and really get those pretty easily just by coming in and kind of tweaking stuff. Super useful tool. Make it real small. Make some simple edits. Right. Super, super handy and useful. We've just quickly kind of came in and tweaked this model, but it helps a lot, right? Come in here, maybe I'll pull this backside up a little bit. Bam, right? It's looking all right, right? Not terrible. Now, one of my other favorite tools I love to use when I'm doing poly modeling or basic poly modeling is the bevel tool. It's great for things like edges to certain areas, or if you want to smooth something out or give it some quick definition. You come in and just click the edges. So we'll go right here. I'm going to go out of my soft select. I'm going to grab this little rocket booster part in the back right here. Maybe I'll pull it up a little bit. Maybe even out a little bit more like that. What we can do is just come up to Edit Mesh and then go down to Bevel. You'll see it immediately bevels that section. We can slide those options to kind of make that look good however we want, right? So that looks good. Okay, I want to pull out this face a little bit more. And I'll do a extrusion in. Extrusion in like so. It gives us an area where we can do our little rocket booster on the back. Right? It's looking pretty good. Maybe we'll just add a little bit more to it. Maybe just something on the bottom right here just to kind of give it a little more mass. So we'll come on the bottom and we'll take these two parts right here. Just extrude them down. Maybe I'll turn it a little bit like that. Now, in your ship designs, whatever you're doing, just take these ideas to heart when you're building. Use symmetry. It's really going to help you when you're building your model. Use the soft select. Use the extrusions. However you want. Just play around. And, I haven't really used any other tools in here except that cube that I started with. So that really, really helps if you're doing this kind of modeling. Just come in here. Tweak some of this a little bit. Maybe I'll do a little extrusion in here. Like that. I'm just using a lot of extrusions and a lot of just playing around with the shape of the model, right? Come in there. Not looking half bad. All right. Maybe we just need to add one more detail to this. I'll come into the wing here and do something maybe here. Come to this side. And we'll just do an extrusion. so. Let's draw down. Something like that's kind of cool. All right. And we can texture it to be, I don't know, maybe some blasters or something. All right. Now, when you're doing AR stuff too, you want to think in terms of low poly, especially if you're going to have a lot of stuff on a scene at once, or even just one thing. I always like to go low and then add more detail as needed. It just really helps in the optimization process to think that way. I know a lot of people say, no, go high and then make it low. I kind of like to go the opposite for something like AR because you're dealing with like mobile processors and things that aren't exactly super high powered. Now, as technology changes, that's going to change as well. But, you almost have to go back to simplistic modeling just to kind of get away with, what the technology can handle, especially if you're using things like phones. Just coming in here and just kind of tweaking this model a little bit.